Get this guy out of here. Where do you have to go in Brooklyn?
Brooklyn, I have to meet a couple of guys, my volunteers. We have to.
Thank you, brother, for closing that. Anyway, that's what I think is the overriding. I've been reading Geithner. Really good. Read the book he wrote is really good about what happened in 2008. He was behind all that.
We should start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome very much to Conversation. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program Bahrram Maskinian. And he is an intellectual of a very high order. He's got a website. He's the founder and the CEO of a venture. It's called the Venus Project Foundation. He's the creator of that. He's a cyberneticist and an intellectual of a very high order. Happy to say he did address our ACAP the other night to great acclaim by a number of people that were there with a lot of interesting questions. But Bahrram, welcome so very much to our studio and to MNN.
Thank you.
It's really good. Maybe you could share a little bit. We're going to show a clip from Thrive and so forth, but share your background. You're Iranian background originally, and we talk about that. And then we want to talk about, your website, your work. You've been at it for decades.
For a long time.
For a long time in a comprehensive way. It's really important. But share your own background a little bit.
Well, I started from computer business, and when internet became available to the public, one of the things that I used to do was to fax people the result of my research and articles, and sometimes some poems. And but when internet became available around 1993, 94, and so I created the first, if you like to call it, think tank or a kind of website, activism website talking about issues and ideas that nobody else was talking about.
Also within multimedia context.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, at the time, at first, internet was only text, and then a picture was added, and as it evolved, so did my work with the Venus Project. You can find us at venusproject.org. And we are a 501c3 non-profit organization. And just for all the folks who are interested, all donations to Venus Project is completely tax deductible. And we've been focused on issues that are essential to pretty much human survival, issues that are involving medicine and technology, new technology to be exact. And wonderful herbal medicine like hemp or cannabis or marijuana, or which all are the same.
It really is. That's really surfacing now, isn't it? The marijuana thing is just coming up right out of the...
Well, President Obama just about a couple of months ago signed a bill that made it legal to research and go further into hemp to bring it out as what it used to be. For people who may not know, hemp up to 1943 was legal in America. Military uniforms and ropes for the ships, and I mean, about 100 and some change different products, from paper to fabric to fuel to oil, was taken from hemp.
George Washington grew it.
Exactly.
And
George
all the
Washington
fathers did.
Yes. They were all proud farmers, hemp farmers. And according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, you had to cultivate 35%, minimum 35% of your land with hemp.
Wow, is that because it fixes nitrogen, or is it good for the soil, or
it does quite a few things. It enriches the soil, number one. Number two, hemp is weed, meaning that it doesn't require fertilizer. There is no bug that can harm it. There is no pest that can harm it, nothing. All you do is you plant it, a few months later it's ready, you harvest it.
Wasn't it awful, that war on drugs that Reagan and those people came out, and they filled our prisons with 2.5 million people for smoking a joint, which is now becoming just au courant in terms of the emerging society. It was a big
well,
mistake.
Of course, it was a
And
mistake.
the implications of that still with it. We still got prisons full of people, a large number of which are black, for one thing, and also on a charge of smoking something that now is becoming touted by the government. It's really interesting metaphor.
Well, you got to keep in mind that all of these are used as an excuse to keep people down.
Okay.
And it has been, obviously, the trend to keep Latinos and blacks down in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, right.
So one of them is obviously to export all sorts of violence and guns and drugs into their neighborhoods. Right. And then they turn around and they say, oh, see the blacks, oh, they're so violent.
That's coming to a head now with Ferguson and
that's
with,
not true, because if the same level of education, good nutrition, it has been proven over and over again that good food would, healthy mind is in a healthy body.
Okay.
So if you have good diet, you're not going to be violent. If you don't drink alcohol, you're not going to be violent. All of the environmental conditions are set in the pretty much in the cities and in the ghetto for people to be violent.
Well, okay, that's interesting. I would think in a materialistic kind of way, I think the main thing that coheres world society for good or ill, mostly for ill and so forth, is among all other things, there's love, empathy, important, creativity, a lot of interesting factors of human consciousness, or the extension of that into the societal order. But the main thing, one would say, you could make a chart or something, but it's money. And so if people had adequate money to be able to live a life that is now available in terms of the capability of the society, I think that would take care of a lot of the problems.
It
money,
would.
A lack of buying power.
It would, but you see, there is one problem there. We don't have printing machine.
Well, we have a Federal Reserve Board that can turn it out.
Well, we have to contact Rothschild, Morgan, and Harriman, and Warburg, and all these families that they control all, for Rockefeller, that they control the printing machine of Federal Reserve.
And that's political.
No, it's not political. It's reality.
Well,
it's reality.
Okay,
so if you want money, we have to contact them to print some money for us. But the point here is to get to that money, to have that income that would make life a good, healthy, prosperous life for you. First, you need a education and an environment conducive to being educated.
Well, perhaps.
If you live in an environment that is constantly under attack, whether it's by, undesirable elements that they come from out of those neighborhoods, and they spread guns and drugs and whatever they do.
I don't like putting the onus on them like that. I wouldn't want to put the onus on the people that are being victimized.
No, I'm not.
Put the onus on the leadership that doesn't have a right economic policy.
That's not what I said.
Okay.
I said the undesirables that they come from outside.
Oh, okay.
So that means the people in that neighborhood are being victimized.
By the people who run the country.
They're coming from outside, right.
Yeah, from Washington, D.C.
Right, that they have in the trunk of their car weapons and drugs and all kinds of things too.
Those people at that level, that's street level kind of stuff.
Right,
I'm saying
level.
The overall dimensions by which we form capital and distribute buying power and the economic premises of the political system is out of date with what is required.
Right.
So
Thomas
the leadership
Jefferson
is falling down.
Right. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, they all said that the U.S. Constitution has to be re-examined at least every 20 to 25 years.
Well, we do have an amendment process.
Right. It is now. It's due. And one of the things that I believe, and I have written a bunch of articles about it at Venus, you can find it at Venus.
Yeah, you've got a really rich site. I congratulate you.
Thank you, on venusproject.org. And one of the suggestions that I make is boycott all elections and convene constitutional convention.
Well,
that is the only way peacefully we can make change. You got to remember, once you withdraw your support from any system, that system would collapse.
Well,
and that is a fact.
Let's think of the way political changes happen through time. I mean, we had...
well, we had already 220 years, and it's time to go over the Constitution and modify it that would be something fit for today. We need a paradigm shift that would pretty much, brings everything, every element, every opportunity, and everything that has to come forth for everybody to use.
wonder-
We now have a system that we have bankers right on top, the 7 or 8 families, aristocracies of Britain, that they still own this country, or in any other country for that matter, and they are the one from top down that they determine the policy of what is the rate for as far as the mortgage, what kind of interest rate you have to pay, how Wall Street performs and how Wall Street rip you off, how the banks rip you off. Look at the system that we have now. Banks, you go put your money in the bank. If you have less than the amount required, meaning that let's say if you put $2,000 in a bank and your bank, that's one of the 3 or 4 major ones, there aren't that many left, it requires you to have $2,000, but you put $1,500 in your bank, they start charging you $30 a month fee, service charge. What service for what?
Whatever they can get away with.
What are they taking? Are they taking my money out in the park? Are they giving it massage? Service for what? What service charge? That's one thing right there. And not only they take your money, and I recommend highly, I cannot emphasize this more strongly, everybody watch Thrive documentary film.
I'm glad you brought that up.
That
I
brings
want
out-
you to do, as they say in the business, we're on television, you set it up, they say, or we'll set it up together. I could completely agree with you. It's a magnificent film.
Yes.
Produced to the highest production values imaginable. As I understand, it was done by, with the support of a Gamble family fellow who had the ability to get behind that film.
No, it's not support. He did it. Foster Gamble and his wife, Kimberly Gamble, they are brilliant. They did a brilliant work.
But they could hire people that could have really high production values at the highest order.
It took them 20 years and $14 million of their own money to do this. And now this documentary film in 17 dubbed languages and 10 subtitled, 27 languages, from Chinese to Russian to French to German, Japanese, Arabic, Persian, you name it. This documentary film is available. All you have to do is search for Thrive or go to thrivemovement.com. That's Foster Gamble's website. The movie is available for free on YouTube.
Yeah, right. It's
and
available
as I understand, we have a short clip of it from YouTube.
Yeah, we have a short clip, the actual introduction. It's a couple hours, I guess, long.
It's 2 hours, a few minutes.
Yeah, it's a film that everyone is recommended.
But it's everybody.
Everybody
has to see
we're
it.
limited because we have limited time here. But we have the beginning of it, about 7-8 minutes of the film that we're going to show, and it's a YouTube version that we're going to be showing, as I understand.
Yes, this is from YouTube. Right.
Yeah.
This is from YouTube that is freely available to everybody all over the world.
Okay, well, maybe if in the booth we could get that set up, we got that clip ready to go. It's the introduction, the beginning of the film, and let's set that up and air it now, then, please. Thank you.
Our genius, unaware of our true power and magnificence. But all that is about to change. I invite you to share with me the highlights of my unlikely journey. I've created this navigator to take us through time and space. Let me show you around. On this screen, we can access what I call our vitals. It's the critical data we don't get from the corporate media, which in the US has consolidated from 50 companies down to 5 in just over 25 years. We'll use this to check on how we're really doing. The right screen tracks how to chart a healthy, sustainable course for living on planet Earth. I call these the navigating insights. And this will be our compass. Instead of a needle seeking north in our Earth's magnetic field, our compass is the shape of the field itself. And that shape, as you will soon see, has amazing technological and social ramifications. After a lifetime quest, I've come to believe that this pattern actually holds the key to a world that works for everyone. So let's go.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it was actually a little more we would have included, but that's the beginning of it.
Right, that's just the very beginning. It's a teaser for everyone out there to definitely go to YouTube and watch Thrive. As I said, 17 dubbed in any language you desire, from Chinese to Japanese to Arabic to pretty much all major languages, and 10 languages is subtitled. It is just briefly. The reason I'm recommending it so highly is for a number of reasons. One of which is, unlike many other documentaries that we all have seen, this documentary names names, gives you the pretty much diagnosis of what is wrong and how it can be fixed. So you leave the documentary very happy and satisfied, because for the first time you're gonna know why all of these are happening, who is doing it, and what to do about it.
There are a couple of things come up, if you don't mind. Just in that little clip, actually, I wanted to go a little further. I'd watched the film. It's magnificent. I agree with you, and we recommend it highly. A couple of things. One, I wonder if we could talk on the language thing. I have a friend who's a Korean who has, using the color spectrum of the universe in great sophistication, so 10 million shades of bright yellow and all that kind of thing, as an algorithmic thing to be able to have a device that you would be speaking in English and it would be autonomically and in real time translating into all the languages of the world to the person who's, they would end the language barrier. I heard you say this film is dubbed, or the audio track is in 16 languages? 17 languages.
And also there is a translation and the subtitle, not translations, excuse me, subtitle, English subtitle for people who are deaf and mute. They can watch the documentary with the English subtitle.
Well, the thing that I was getting at, though, is that it's in the language itself getting past print. Because I think the world is going multimedia, and we're all caught up with metaphors and social organization principles, as Marshall McLuhan, James Joyce talking about. We're getting past the phonetic or the alphabet as a way of encoding information. And the idea that we're going to go into multimedia with a device that can break the language barrier would be a huge breakthrough for humanity. That's one thing I mentioned. The other thing, if I could, because you're very familiar with it, Mr. Gamble is his name. He said, we're going to have this guiding principle here, and then this we're going to take all of the facts of the universe into account and what the reality is. That's a big order in order to get at that. And how we could do that, the facts of the universe is emerging, our understanding of it is emerging all the time. And what you would come up with, let's just say, I'll make a projection, because you understand I'm a Bucky Fuller fan and everything. And they did that back in the 60s and 70s, the leading intellectuals of systems thinking and everything. And he was setting the pattern for a lot of Fresca, who we could talk about him as part of Venus Project, or the...
No. Zeitgeist has nothing to do with Venus Project Foundation. Jacques Fresco has nothing to do with Venus Project Foundation.
Okay.
Jacques Fresco came few years after Venus Project Foundation was in
Okay, well, you're the curator of that, but anyway, there are a lot of people who are caught in the I know the Zeitgeist movement. You know, Peter Joseph, that's taking off like gangbusters all over. He's done a good editing job. But anyway, they're all predicated, and they had a thing called the Design Science Decade, 1965 to 75, where they took upon themselves as best they possibly could, and it was done very, very adroitly and intellectually clear. And they took on an understanding of the reality, like Mr. Gamble's talking.
Well,
no,
I got to stop you right there.
Okay,
no,
by all means, yeah.
No, excuse me. What they did was very different than what Foster Gamble did. Foster Gamble demystified everything. There are 12 major issues, from education to medicine to science to energy, banking. He demystified and brought it out in the open for everybody to see where it begins, what are the connections, and what to do about it.
Well, yeah, but
Zeitgeist's never done that.
I'm not talking about Zeitgeist now.
Right.
Zeitgeist. I'm talking about Bucky Fuller.
I can't talk to you about Zeitgeist because I don't follow them. But one thing that I can tell you is about Thrive, which is it's difficult to explain if you don't see it. You got to see it.
I've seen the whole film. It's
I'm going to talk about one part of it, which is very important, which is new energy. New energy, or in some corners known as free energy, is not actually free. You have to pay for the device. But once you pay for the device, the energy you receive is free.
Yeah.
So that's free or new energy. And this has been around for a long time, since Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, I was going to say, we bring up Mr. Tesla.
And Nikola Tesla is the most unappreciated, incredible scientist and a brilliant man that for 120 years he's been shoved under the rug. They don't even teach him. Up to just a couple of years ago, nobody would knew who Nikola Tesla was. And this electricity and everything we have here is based on Nikola Tesla's inventions, first of which was turbines, alternating turbines that, unlike what Thomas Edison was doing, which was direct current, that would require the factory, electricity factory, to be right in a block. Direct current doesn't travel long distances and causes a whole lot of problem, heat, and is very expensive. Nikola Tesla went to Thomas Edison asking for a job and offered Thomas Edison this technology that he has in his head to build the alternating current turbine.
They had a great series on the Science Channel about that.
Right, all of these are current.
Right,
all of these are current in the past couple of years. Since Thrive came out, we, Venus Project Foundation, we've been screaming about this for a long time, but nobody knew.
Well, that's one aspect of overall. He's talking about getting, and as I repair back to Fuller, okay? Forgive me, I'm older and all that. But, and what he was reaching for, it seems to me similar, without going into the details of what it is, because there's a lot of details to, let's just say, reality. You know, it's a very seamless web. Everything's interconnected, we understand. We're learning more all the time. But what he was seeking, and it seems to me the thing of Thrive, the purpose of it, would be, in Fuller's terms anyway, a design scientist. Don't question the politics. Just make a world where it is in touch with the nature's pattern and create a system that will subsume the historical patterns that everybody's tied up with politically. And he said he was looking for an operating manual for Spaceship Earth, is the term that he used. It seems to me Thrive is, and that's like a reality that is not even a paradigm. Paradigm, Mr. Kuhn and so forth. It's a paradigm, things going into a lot of the details of the various aspects of what has been and what has kept back progress to get an overall pattern of what's going on. That's what it seems to me Thrive is about, without going into the details.
Right. Again, how you talk about and how you describe Thrive may scare a lot of people thinking they have to be scientists to watch it.
Not at all. It's beautifully done.
Right. You don't need to know anything about science to watch it.
You don't have to know about Tesla. Then.
Right.
You don't have to bother with Tesla.
Just watch it.
Free energy or any of those things you're bringing up in detail is what I'm saying.
And one thing that is everybody should know is it is a very, very kind of tricky things that the system, by system I mean people who do not want change, people who are running the show right on top. Well, you'll see who they are when you watch Thrive. They come and they just put in a little tiny misinformation and they screw up the whole system. I give you one, for example.
All right, if you want to go into
in a second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, all systems move toward entropy.
Right,
Second
it's a law of entropy, meaning that everything eventually winds down.
Well, that seems.
And also it says that for motion you need acceleration, right? And it implies that there is no such thing as perpetual motion.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Now,
That's not
I give you a simple example.
That's not written into the definition
well,
of the second law of thermodynamics.
If you look,
those are additions you're adding, and that's okay.
No,
go
I'm
ahead.
not adding. These are, if you go to the
they're
different.
not part of the dictionary definition of thermodynamics.
I'm not talking about dictionary. If you go part of the manuals and read on different organization or different colleges or different universities, the general rules are what I just said as far as the laws of thermodynamics, meaning that the entropy means that everything winds down and eventually die. If that happens, that will also, there is another law, part of this law is that motion needs acceleration. Now, right here, if you stop and think for a second, right now we are sitting on a planet that is traveling at a speed of 67,000 miles an hour around the sun.
That's a known fact,
Around the sun.
Yeah.
No, it's not a known fact. Well, we did a work. We had a group of people, our volunteers, that they went to NYU, they went to Columbia University, and they asked college students, what causes the seasons, change of seasons? They didn't know.
Well, that's just ignorance. I mean, we know that. It's known.
If you ask most people, they don't know.
Well,
they don't know. It's by design because the system that is set up, the educational system, don't want you to know. They want you to just be. No, it's not. It's the reality. They want you to be a consuming sheep without a brain, to just go do what they tell you, buy what they tell you, and not to have a mind of your own. Now, let's get back.
That's a big premise,
It is. It is a reality. Well, whether you agree or not, it's a reality.
Okay, I just disagree. That's good enough. We can disagree.
Now,
I think that's too simplistic and too easy.
No, it isn't.
That's like finding enemies.
Watch Thrive again.
Yeah.
Now, the whole idea here is, look at the planet Earth now. Planet Earth has no acceleration, has no engine attached to it, and yet for 4.5 billion, as far as supposedly we have a theory of, it's a theory of evolution. Being banged, not a law.
Well,
most of the physics law and science, science laws are becoming a law. Science should not, most of the stuff that we're talking about are pretty much theoretical. They're not supposed to be a law, but that's another point.
Well, watch out for Tea Party people saying everything's theoretical.
Right.
You know, you got to be careful.
I don't care about what they say.
Yeah.
But the point is, for whatever billions of years, planet Earth has been going around the sun, the moon is going around the planet Earth, and
planet Earth, 4 billion years,
Planet Earth revolving around itself at 1,200 miles an hour. Yeah. So that is perpetual motion.
Well,
every atom in your body, every atom in your body works on not the laws of thermodynamics.
Well, that's
it is perpetual motion. Every atom here,
you're going to try and get to Tesla and you're going to get to Pon's cold fusion, I guess, right?
Cold fusion.
Yeah, I guess you would think that.
Right, cold fusion and Nikola Tesla. Cold fusion, as you know, was discovered. The reason I'm using the word discovered is cold fusion is the law of nature. Well, it's not something to invent.
You're making a premise that is most of the scientific community would take exception to, as you understand.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't care.
Okay. Yeah, so good. Well, then ran away, yeah.
Right. Then cold fusion came about in 1989. Yeah. And after a few peer review and everybody that saw that, it works, all of a sudden, the very same powers, or call it, the secret government in the U.S., they start trashing these two scientists. And from NASA to MIT, Massachusetts, everybody came out and made these two poor guys that they did a wonderful service, that they made it all, no, it's not conclusive, we could not reproduce the results.
Why
and all
would they do that?
Money.
Okay, now
money.
you're getting around to
Right.
economics. That's
This
interesting.
this is a simple fact that all scientists, unless you are a scientist that you come and you design something that is everybody's kitchen or everybody needs in a kitchen or in a car, and you produce millions and you sell millions and become a millionaire or billionaire, unless you're that kind of scientist, most scientists are heavily dependent on grants they get from billionaires.
Now you're getting into
And
economics.
billionaires
yeah, right.
will not want you to talk about other forms of energy that people can have without oil and gas, without the use of fossil fuel.
Are you a? You seem to have a real brief against the system,
I have
political,
nothing against
economic,
anybody.
intellectual
I have
system
nothing
that
against
is in
anybody.
control
I'm
of the
telling
world.
no,
You seem to have a brief
no,
against
don't
them.
don't interpret what I
Oh,
say.
no, I'm trying to
and don't
understand.
label it.
I'm trying to
Right.
understand. You're making
what,
very careful.
What I say
very
is
good,
the
large
truth.
Charges that
No,
ought to
there's
be
not
addressed.
charge. Truth
Well,
is not a charge.
Well,
Truth is the truth.
oh, you've got
That's
the
it.
truth, and it's not.
I know
That's
scientists.
Not the scientific
I
way
know,
of dealing with
well,
things.
I know scientists.
And if
If
you
they
don't
don't,
want to, don't.
most scientists, if they don't have tenure in
You
a
say they're
college
bought.
or, let me finish. Most scientists, if they don't have tenure to teach in a college or university, and they strictly dependent on grants that they get from foundations,
Yes.
they have to agree with what the boss that pays them the money.
It's obvious.
Right.
Obvious.
So
You don't
this
make
is
a big
how-
point of it.
This is how they
the system, the
pretty
way it's
much
always been.
they bulldozed pretty much the whole concept of cold fusion, which is now, by the way, a scientist, Italian scientist called Rossi, out of Bologna, Italy,
Yeah.
have put together a device size of a suitcase. That is a cold fusion that it's worked, and it's been tested twice by the European Union. Last time was 2012, and he got a certificate from Europe, from Brussels, for this device to be sold and put in homes. But he came to US, started a manufacturing base in Florida, in Miami, called Leonardo, and his name is Dr. Andrea Rossi, and he cannot get permission from Department of Energy to sell that device. And the device does very simple. If you buy this device and put it in your home, by your use of a liter of nickel and oxygen as a fuel, 1 liter is 1/4 of a gallon. That 1 liter would give you equivalent energy of 2 million liters of oil. The device needs to be refueled only every 2 years, which is a little bit of oxygen, a little bit of hydrogen and nickel. And that's one thing that is sitting there.
That
And
certainly should be out in the public.
It is out. It is on
Let
YouTube.
me remind you of something. You've talked about that, but remind you of something that we're part of an evolutionary process, and we're evolving a historical society, and so we have cultures and that sort of thing. And we're learning more all the time. We're getting to know more about the physical, and even literary knowledge and so forth is growing exponentially now and everything. But there was a time when the optics began to be developed in Europe. Yeah, I don't know, the other parts of the world.
Yeah, you're talking about
And
500
then
years ago.
There was Copernicus, and there was Galileo, and they put together a thing called a telescope, where they were, you know what that was made for? So that they could see the battleships far distant
Well,
off
actually,
the sea. But let me finish with the point.
Well, you interrupted
me-
You interrupted me to complete my point about energy.
Okay, finish the point, and then I can get
first
something
was,
in. Maybe.
now we talked about cold fusion, and the most important, my favorite, is Adam Trombley's device. Adam Trombley, that you will see it in Thrive, he made a device based on Nikola Tesla's magnetic, they call it either 0 point or quantum energy,
point energy,
or
yeah.
magnetic levitation energy,
yeah.
all the same.
Yeah.
This device, once it starts,
Yeah.
it generates more than enough to run itself and excess 8 to 10 times energy that can be used.
Okay, now
That is perpetual motion.
Yeah.
Because there is no grinding, there is no contact. The motor is running based on the same philosophy. If anybody goes to Japan, you see those bullet trains. Those bullet
Yeah,
trains
300
are
miles an
magnetic
hour.
levitation.
Yeah, I know.
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
law.
That's progress.
Those trains have no wheels.
Yeah,
they
right.
glide
I know,
into the air.
I know. They're ahead of us.
Right.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
same principle is used in this device.
Yeah.
Adam Trombley did this device when George Bush, the first was the Emperor of United States.
Right, okay. There's
Then
a point? No,
he
not.
took the device, he had an appointment, he took the device to United Nations, before United Nations Assembly, he had it tested, and he took it to the US Congress. They saw it's working beautifully, and suddenly FBI comes, confiscated the device, all of his paperwork,
Okay.
and put him on a gag order to shut the hell up and don't talk about it.
Thank you. Now can I make my point?
Now,
Now can I talk? Are you going to? You want to talk for an hour?
no.
Just give a whole lecture. You
I
can
wanna,
do that.
I want to make the
but
point
you go
about new
endlessly
energy.
on. Yeah.
I want to make the
Okay,
point
what's
about
the
new
point?
energy.
What's the point?
New energy is here now.
Okay.
The
I
reason,
like that,
the reason
yeah.
you, the audience, and you, the host, don't have it is because there is no public demand.
Thank you. Okay.
We,
Well-
as public, have to rise up and demand. And when you demand it. Don't demand it by email, by phone, or letter. Come together with all the constituency of whomever your congressman or senator is. Go to their office and demand you want to have
These things that you say are
New
facts.
energy.
You got facts and everything, and the system by which those facts. But the point, of course, I was making is that they only let Galileo off the hook about 12 years ago for saying we were not the center of the universe. There were all kinds of identities, thought patterns, intellectual properties that gave people a sense of identity coming out of a historical pattern. And it was only 12 years ago they finally let him off the hook for having made the truth. It's hard won. It's not something
Well,
that you can say is absolute, because also it's evolving all the time.
Right, but you got to understand, what Galileo did, he took a concept that was already something that everybody had in China. He didn't come up with the lens concept of grinding the edges of a piece of glass on both ends and create a lens. This is 1,000-year-old that has been done.
Doesn't matter wherever it developed.
Right, he just put them in a row and he looked through it. So he didn't invent.
No, the point being is that society they have vested interest in a historically inherited political and economic system of people in establishment do not want to have a new thing introduced unless you have a system that can include everybody. That means
no, that's
no
not
enemies.
true. That's
no
not
enemies.
true. That's not true.
It's not the bad guys who are cognizant
That's
not
not
to
true.
be well, you don't think that's
Harold,
true. I'm suggesting it is.
No,
That's
it
the
isn't.
largest challenge.
I give you a very simple, premise, and
Trying
that
to
is
spell out the people
the
that
whole-
are responsible for the dysfunction in the world goes on endlessly now.
The system is deliberately designed.
The system?
Let me finish.
Okay.
The system is deliberately designed to keep people at each other's throat.
It always has been. It's
It's a-
nothing new. That's just the way it is in a
Now,
modern. You're making a point to make a point that doesn't have to be made.
Well,
it's always
I'm
been
trying
a few
to prove
people
you. I'm trying to prove you.
will stand in the way of progress.
No,
in order to
nobody's
reify the outdated.
Nobody's standing
That's
anywhere.
a law of
The
history.
problem is public ignorance.
Well-
public ignorance is part of a public dumbing down, which is giving people.
You're using
watered down-
loaded language, dumbing down. It's just happening. It's
No,
not
it's
loaded
not.
down.
It's-
You think it's a conspiracy?
Of course it is.
Okay, you think you're at a conspiracy thing
I
going.
don't
okay,
think.
Join
I
the crowd.
know.
You know, you got
I
facts.
know,
I would
yes.
suggest your facts ought to be questioned in a larger context.
Well, if
That's
you
what I'm
want- if
suggesting.
you
You don't
wanna-
want to hear that, Mr. Galileo.
No, I'm not Galileo. I'm Bahrram Maskinian.
No, you're making an assumption that is too glib.
No, it's not assumption.
They're not facts. There are things
They're
that
not-
can be
I
thrown up
know.
and put on
I
the
know.
table.
I've seen evidence, and I know it's facts.
Facts,
that from,
facts. You got a lot of
Why
facts.
do you think they make GMO food, genetically modified
Well, it would have
organisms?
something to do with economic
Wha-
advantages
no, it
that
isn't.
can be realized.
No, it
oh,
isn't.
No, why did they want
It's
to poison people?
control.
Why?
It's control and
Control.
poison.
Yes, yes, that's
Why-
the world. That's
right.
the history of the world.
Do you know what fluoride is?
Well, I have an idea. I don't know in great detail about anything.
Fluoride, if you go back, and just a couple of months ago when there were a conversation about Obama wanting to attack Syria because they used chemical weapons.
Yeah.
Look at the ingredients of that chemical weapon.
it
It's
Agent Orange or
fluoride. No. Agent Orange was Vietnam.
Horrible
Fluoride.
stuff. Yeah.
Fluoride is the same element that they add to New York water. Fluoride is highly toxic, and it has a very, very negative effect on your cognitive process. that has been by myself.
So like Dr.
by-
Strangelove. They're
no,
fluoridating the water.
there are 4 documentaries that are
Okay.
all on
Another fact,
venusproject.org.
huh?
It is a fact.
Yeah, okay, you got a lot of facts that would be called into question by a whole lot of people.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, good.
I
That's
hope
good.
so.
And it's good you're putting them
Bring it
forth.
in.
You're kind
Bring
of
it on.
paranoid against the system,
Me?
right? Yeah.
No.
You're not,
No,
or
no.
you are?
Harold,
What do you feel about the people
Harold,
running the show?
choose your words carefully.
You do too.
Paranoid.
I would suggest you choose your
Paranoid
words.
is not what I
Oh,
do.
no, you got the fact.
I have the
You have
fact.
the fact, right.
If I didn't know, I
Most
wouldn't
paranoids
say.
think they do.
No.
Okay. Well, they do.
No,
That's factual.
No, well, I don't know about
That's
anybody.
factual.
I don't know about anybody else. I'm talking about me.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay, and
I
I'm
have-
sorry. I'm sorry.
If you keep on running into what I say, you're not going to be able to.
Well, you have a lot to be questioning what you're saying, is what I'm saying. You
Well,
don't think it is. It's the truth. You got the truth.
truth-
I'm really worried about true believers, I'll tell you. I always have been.
You have to understand simple fact
Facts.
in any society
Yeah.
is first to control the public.
Yes, it always has been.
Okay, let me
Okay.
finish.
Nothing new.
Now, they control the public by education, food, medicine, environment, and this whole thing come about to make sure that everything that you do as a human being is not too much, it's not overly kind of against the will of the system. Now, the will of the system is
the system.
for everybody to be a mindless consumer and just do what you're told.
You really
That is
think
the-
that?
Where have you been? You are in TV. You're doing this show for how many years?
A long time.
You say that you know Buckminster Fully and you don't know?
No, his name is Fuller, not Fully.
Fuller,
Yeah.
Fully, whatever.
He's a real intellectual.
And you don't know?
And he coined the term synergy.
How could you not know?
Well, I don't know all these facts that you're putting out as facts when they're
There
not
are
facts. They're thoughts.
hundreds.
They're thoughts and they're good to put out.
There are
There's a whole
hundreds,
bunch of conspiracy theories around now because the system is coming up a moment of qualitative transformation.
No,
that
the
is very,
system-
very
the
upsetting to
system-
human identity.
No, that's not true. The system
that
will
is
never
true.
transfer anything. The only way we can transfer things to better is if we boycott all elections and start constitutional conventions
Well-
to redesign the system.
Well, the Constitutional
reason-
Convention would come up with if you're intellectually not just mired
No,
in just
you don't need to be
politics.
intellectual.
You don't even give me a chance to say a word. That's why it's so frustrating. You got a truth. And the thing is that that would come around if you include the intellectual community, not just the political hacks and so forth who run the system and the bankers and stuff. But if you did it, you'd come up with like what is an operating manual for spaceship Earth built on a synergistic evolving system in the universe that's comprehensive, including everybody, not trying to find out who's at fault for it. That's what's so al-Quran now, and it should be gotten over in the name of full responsibility for our function in the universe. That's what I'm trying to say.
If you are sick and you go to a doctor, the first thing that has to be done is a diagnostic regimen has to be done to find out what is wrong with you before they treat you. The same is true about the society. If you don't understand the ailment of the society, you will never be able to fix it.
Well,
the ailments of, let me finish.
Okay.
The ailments of the
I will.
society
Yeah.
are the many that I just mentioned.
Well, you mentioned you ran out a lot of things.
From food contamination to water contamination. Do you know what is chemtrail?
Well, I know about the chemtrails part
Do you know
of
what they
a
are?
conspiracy thing, yeah.
Anywhere in U.S., if you look up in the air, you will see the ribbons of white.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Chemtrail, and it's been admitted by the previous Vice President Gore that there are the NOAA and Pentagon and all these people are doing this, and their excuse is that they're shoving up and putting heavy metals up there to reflect the sunlight so the planet Earth wouldn't get too hot.
Okay.
So all of these are done. All of these are done without
did-
my permission, without your permission. Nobody asked me. Is it okay so we can spray poison overhead?
Well, why would they ask you? I mean, they know what they're doing.
They spray poison over our head.
Oh, well, yeah, but
What do you mean would I have to ask you?
That's another exertion. I'm just trying to say it's at a higher level. the transformation that's
No,
going on.
it's not. It as
I would submit. What's going on? We don't know what's going on.
Yes,
And
we do.
Oh, you do. I don't.
No,
and most
millions of people
that really
do.
think, and most intellectuals I know.
That's the
Fuller-
problem. Intellectuals have their head.
Intellectuals are a problem. Okay.
Yes, they
Yeah,
are.
okay, well, that's a thing.
Intellectuals are
That's
talking heads.
That's a
Talking heads have the same concept that I just mentioned about the
Right.
scientists, that they are heavily dependent on salaries or grants. So are the
Except in
intellectuals.
public access, there's no money involved.
Well,
where
then,
you're talking now.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about
Well,
intellectuals
I'm
that
part
you're
of it.
referring to.
No, I'm talking about real intellectuals.
No, I don't think you are
Not-
that kind of intellectual.
not specialized
if you were
intellectuals.
like those intellectuals, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Well, no, I don't think that's true. I think if you were like
Yes, it
I
is.
am, we'd have a real conversation relevant to what's going on in universe.
I don't
Rather
care
than
about
ta-
the
You
universe.
don't
I care about the
universe.
humanity on
Okay.
planet Earth.
Okay, well, that's different. Humanity's only
we
been
are
here
not
200,000.
God.
No,
we are responsible for our own action.
Okay.
I'm responsible for my own action.
Yeah.
And my action is now I want a better planet. I want a clean
Thank
air,
you.
clean water, clean food,
And like Mr. Gamble
and available for everybody.
Right, and we've got the
I want energy for everybody,
Yeah.
and we have the tools to do it now.
Now, we have not had that. We didn't have the
Yes.
tool, if I may. We didn't have the tool, according, you and I differ. Okay, we differ. That's what life is about. Mr. Fuller used to say, he'd put up a, has anybody heard of the word synergy? The universe is synergetic. No hands would go up. They didn't know the words. Behavior systems unpredicted by the sum of the parts. There's something resonatingly more than the sum of the parts. We're not there. When we get there, if we get a resonating
If you
order
want
that,
it-
like Thrive says, and the humanity and the ecology is in order with a new level of understanding in universe, there will be a resonancy that will interaccommodate to universe. We're not there. So to say
Translation.
that we know we can get there,
See, this
if
is a
we
talking
pass
head.
my bill, we'll
Right.
get there.
This
or
is
something.
this is a college head talking. This is
I
a
am an
universe.
educated person.
So
There's
am
not-
I.
Okay.
But I talk to the people the language
Well, you
of
talk to-
people.
okay.
You talk to people the language of college professor
Well-
that likes to use all these words
Well-
and to pretty much wanted to show off
Well,
that
I like
yes.
to reference good people like James Joyce and Buckminster Fuller and some of the
Right.
major thinkers and
But
much of
you
the people
you're
that
not
you,
talking.
you know.
You're not talking to college professors. You're talking to the people. And if
I'm
people
not
feel-
only talking to the people. I'm also talking. You know, I'm reading right now Mr. Geithner. Geithner's book is really good about what happened and the whole meltdown of the world economy that we came on the edge of falling off the cliff with. He really did a lot. I have a great admiration for Mr. Obama, politically saving the capitalist
This is the
system.
same Geithner.
They saved
This is the same Geithner that ruined the American.
Now you see, you're taking attack. No, that they did is they had to do what they had to do, and he explains
Right.
it very well.
had to give-
Do you listen to him? Do you listen to the people that
I
are in
know
a
what
position?
he did.
No, you
They
don't.
printed
You think you
se-
do. You
This
think
is a
you do.
report of the whole. Report of the. Do you accept the report of Federal Reserve that they printed $16 trillion
Well,
for the
now you're
bankers?
coming up with facts. Read his book.
I don't
think
care
it's
about
worth-
his book.
Well, then, okay.
Why would I want to read someone's book that
Well,
all he
why would I
did
listen to
was
the people
rob
that
the American
why
people?
would I listen to what the people who I'm
How did you-
attacking would be saying? You
How
should
did
be
you-
listening to
how
your
did
enemy.
you? How did? I have no enemy.
Oh, you don't. You have Mr. Geithner and you have the people
No,
who
these
cut
are
down
not my
Tesla.
enemies.
It's all,
These
it's
are the
all-
people
and
that they
dumb
are
down the schools
causing
and
wrong.
They poison us and all
These are the people that they're doing wrong and they have to be exposed.
That's the enemy.
No, it's
There
not
is
an
no
enemy.
enemy.
These are the people that they are need to be exposed.
Well, now you
what
say-
enemy? This is not a war.
Well, okay.
What
where,
you do
where
is-
does the blame come for the dysfunction that is so obvious in the world condition now? It's 360 degrees.
Did you really
of
watch Thrive?
Of course, I watched the
No, you
whole thing
didn't.
very carefully.
You
I
watch
watched-
it again.
I will.
Because
I will.
everything that
he
you
doesn't
say,
come out that
everything
way.
you say,
You are interpreting what he says
all
in my
what it
estimation.
says, all what is said in Thrive has been double checked by independent fact checkers twice.
Are you in touch with him?
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
listen to me. Every fact presented in Thrive is being checked by independent fact checkers twice.
I'm okay.
All right?
Okay.
All the things that you see about pretty much money that was spent, money that was printed, $16 trillion given to bankers that you don't even know about. All are facts, not my opinion.
Okay.
All right?
Well, we just differ in terms of how I understand
Differ?
what reality. Yeah, completely
No,
differ.
that's not differ.
No.
If you want to,
You got the truth.
You can't
You've got
argue.
the truth. You got the truth. Why don't you go and put it out? That's good. That's
I
really
have.
important. Oh,
What the hell
good.
do you think I'm doing here?
So you could go and you could
what do you
get
think I came here?
sense of truth. Well,
I'm contributing my time for free
Yeah.
to enlighten people. I didn't come here
and
to
I'm making
convince
you available for free. It's got nothing to do with the money or anything
So
like that.
why do you think I'm
there
here?
are lots of problems.
Of course they are.
But I do believe what you have to have is not something that is dialectic. It's not something that, and it's not something that is understood in anything other than we're coming to a new way of being in universe that we have never been.
Forget about
for
universe.
200,000
Come to planet Earth.
Well, you don't have to.
Come down
well,
to
if you want to
planet
forget
Earth.
about universe,
You
and-
cannot do anything about universe. You live on planet Earth. Planet Earth is in a lot of trouble because of human activities. Planet Earth needs attention, people's attention, to rise up and demand change.
When do you think humanity appeared? Do you agree with the 200,000 years? 200,000 years is when we appeared out of Homo. You believe with evolution? You do not.
I believe in
Did ma-
evolution, not the
You
ones
don't.
that no.
You know what is? Explain to me how humanity got
Well,
here.
in evolution, what did they say in evolution? In evolution, they said life began in Africa, which is pretty much
no,
what
not life. Human life.
human life.
The Homo
life
sapiens species began in Africa.
That's nonsense.
Oh, you think
have,
it's nonsense?
It is.
Okay.
You have
Here
life.
comes another truth.
Life
ladies and gentlemen.
began around the equator. If you want to learn something, listen. Life began around the
You
equator.
talking about life or human life?
Life in
That's
general.
About 3.8 billion years ago, the first constituents
Theory. That's a theory.
That's a theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Life began. And how do you know that? If there are the paleontologists, they've been digging out bodies of dinosaurs and people all around the equator. And they
Well, in
had
other
to come up.
places as well. The Earth changed a
Oh,
lot.
very good. So you know that.
Well, of course.
Now, so how did they get there? They all came from Africa and get on a train, went to all the way to Australia?
I'm confused with your language. Are you talking about the Homo sapiens species?
I'm talking
or life?
about
Life
life.
is different. That started about
Life.
That probably was around 3.8 billion years
It doesn't
ago.
matter. I don't know. You don't know. It's a theory. The numbers are theory. The fact is that around the equator, all over the world, bodies and skeletons of dinosaurs and people have been discovered.
Well, they've been
That
discovered
is-
all over the Earth.
That's what I
Gotta
just said.
underline, and
That's
there-
what I just said.
Oh,
All
okay.
over the world.
Well, why do you say the equator only?
Because that's where life began, around the equator. North, pretty much the south and north hemisphere were almost frozen to the few hundred miles to the equator.
Well,
Life began around the equator. Now, where, when, how humanity crawled out of the ocean, how did they survive, how did they grow leg instead of fence, nobody knows. There are a lot of speculations that who and what caused this whole human race to come about. There are a lot of people also that they argue that human race came to this planet by spaceships, and they say we were delivered here, and planet Earth is pretty much a petri dish for pretty much controlled or by other life forms that are far more advanced in technology and everything else.
Yeah.
So
it's
nobody
worrying about-
knows.
That thing about it's a theory is used by the Tea Party people. Everything's a
No.
theory.
Bring-
and there's
humanity
nothing-
brought
there
here
is
by spaceship.
intellectual inquiry, and there is a growing understanding of things. And through time, it is expanded. What the point is, we are coming to a time of qualitative, almost speciation in terms of universe after 200,000 years of our experience.
I don't know
That's
about
a
that.
point that has to be brought up, and we need a new thing that relates to the future liberated order that is a borning, which the Thrive is all about. We are coming to a time of qualitative paradigm transformations in universe, transcending 200,000 years of human experience and intellectual understanding of what's going on, and the need for design that can provide that, and that's what Thrive is about.
That's the third time you repeated that.
Well, it's just to be repeated.
And that's not true.
Oh, it's not true.
No.
Okay.
The whole world, there is this impulse that is now all over the world, evolutionary impulse. This evolutionary impulse is been developing, and the development of gradually in the past century is starting from telegraph and telephone and radio and television and finally the internet brought the whole package of communication, worldwide communication together. Right. People now in Africa, they may not have electricity, but they have a cell phone that they can connect to the tower nearby.
That's true.
And they can have a Facebook page.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's amazing.
That
the last couple of years, yeah.
That is not a couple of years, in 15 years.
Yeah, 15 then, yeah.
This is now possible because of that mass communication connection all over planet Earth.
Quite true.
This is what fueling this whole concept and this whole energy of evolutionary impulse that humanity is waking up for the first time.
Thank you. I like that. That's true. Yeah.
And as a result of that waking up, there will be demand for better life, for clean water, for clean food, for clean energy for everybody.
Yeah. And the ecology.
But to get there, first, people like me that have the means, people like you that have the camera, have to first educate the public as what they can do to get that.
What we all need collectively, including the so-called leadership, political and economic theorizing.
No.
Yeah, Mr. Geithner wrote a good book.
I don't care about Mr. Geithner.
You know what else they're all reading? It's encouraging.
Leadership has to come from every individual.
From the individuals? You think there's no role for a leadership element? You think there's no role for
power corrupts.
No, Mr.
Absolute
Einstein
power. Einstein wasn't a leader. Einstein was a thinker.
He was an intellectual leader. Intellectualism is part of it.
No,
of course he was.
Einstein said, Albert Einstein said, the mind that brought us this cannot be the mind that can fix it. That is Albert Einstein.
Well,
now,
quotes, yeah.
The idea is we as people have to take charge of our own life and have to learn to, one, reform begins with oneself. For me, before I can talk to anybody about anything, I have to be a person that has done what I talk about.
Yeah, well, you've done that. You really have. And your site is really good.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to, and I would not be qualified to talk about it.
Yeah, you are qualified to talk on those issues.
When I say that leader, again, remember, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
If I may, let me correct you a little. Power tends to corrupt, absolute
potato,
power
potato.
It's a big word,
right.
Tends.
Again, so once people educated enough, they learn that without them taking action, and taking action is very simple. All you have to do is come together with your neighbors, people in your building, find out who is representing you in Congress, go knock on his or her door and say, we want new energy. Second thing that I recommend is equal rights for women, female rights. Most people think, oh, wow, in America and in Europe, we have equal rights. No, we don't. We have to have true equal rights. True equal rights is from every municipality, from every city, every county, one woman, one man should represent.
That's a hell of a good issue to run, and you could run for office. Listen, you know what the problem is?
Can I finish the thought?
No, you can't, because
can I finish the thought?
We've run out of time.
You just keep on running right in the middle of.
Well, we've run out of time. We're going to run right off the air, so we have to close it off.
It's very simple. I'm closing it up.
Okay,
two things we want. We want true equal rights, and we want new energy.
Okay, well, those are two biggies.
No, it's not. It's very simple to do.
Well, they are. They'd be achieved. And anyway, it's a really interesting site with a lot of interesting ideas about what's going on, and it's highly recommended, and Thrive is highly recommended. And Bahrram, I thank you very much for coming in. We got to keep getting together like this and agreeing on every single point.
Sure.
Your pleasure is perception. We're coming back again tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Bahrram, for all the work and everything. And I look forward. Yeah, how'd you like the dog?
Oh, beautiful.
Isn't he good? Yeah, the dog. We agree on. Okay, thank you very much. It was your pleasure. We're coming back tomorrow. Okay, see, I'm sorry we ran right out of time. We could have gone on talking amicably forever. Okay. I think you must have cut that then. And we got to, oh, wait, you can walk around because we don't have to.
You don't have to